Our usual mission here is to crack open those dense, complex source materials.
Yeah.
The economic models, the political manifestos, the deep scientific papers, and we're always looking for the big, hidden insights that structure our world.
But today we're going to pivot dramatically. We're taking a magnifying glass to the absolute basics.
Yeah, the things we think we already know.
Exactly. We are focusing on the linguistic building blocks of daily life. Because sometimes the most powerful code, it's not encrypted in complexity. It's right there in the open, in the simple phrases we use without even thinking.
That's it. We have a list of 10 essential everyday phrases, and these are the verbal shortcuts. The phrases that when you use them correctly and consistently, they act as these incredibly powerful navigational tools.
They really do. They govern social exchange, they manage conflict, and this is critical for our audience. They accelerate knowledge acquisition.
So our deep dive today is into, what do we call it? Applied sociolinguistics.
That's a good way to put it. Filtered through the lens of pure utility, we're going to systematically analyze these 10 foundational phrases. For each one, we'll look at the obvious meaning, of course, but then we'll drill down into the when to use context. And I think much importantly, the easy idea.
Right.
The psychological or sociological function that makes that simple phrase an essential communication tool.
We've structured this exploration phrase by phrase, moving pretty logically from the start of an interaction to the tools you need for repairing it, and then finally to the crucial language you need for learning.
Yep.
Our mission is to really transform your understanding of these seemingly insignificant words and prove that mastery of the basics is, well, it's mastery of the social field. Okay, so let's unpack the architecture of a conversation, starting with what the sources are calling the bookends.
The bookends, I like that.
Me too. These are the phrases that define the boundary of any social interaction, and crucially, they set and they seal the emotional contract. If you get these wrong, the entire exchange just feels off.
It feels awkward. And we have to begin with the most inevitable opening ritual there is, phrase number 1.
How are you? Now, any layperson, would define this as just asking about someone's feelings. The sources note its explicit meaning is indeed an inquiry into someone's emotional status. But that's just the definition.
That is not the function.
It's not the function.
Yeah, the function is where the real analysis has to begin. The moment you transition from a simple, acknowledgement like hello to the status query of how are you, you're initiating the social contract.
Okay.
You are signaling psychological and conversational readiness. The explicit meaning, that request for a deep emotional status report that is almost always ignored in daily practice.
That's the core challenge, though, isn't it? As the host, I have to ask, isn't how are you often criticized as maybe the most insincere question in modern life?
It absolutely is.
If we know the answer is always going to be the automated script, fine, thank you, does it actually function as a connection, or is it just mandatory noise we make to avoid an awkward silence?
That's a highly critical, but I think a very necessary point. In most transactional or professional contexts, it functions as a compliance ritual, not a genuine inquiry.
A compliance ritual.
Yeah, think of it as a kind of verbal smoke screening. It serves two vital, non-sincere purposes. First, it gives both parties a fraction of a second to gauge the other person's immediate emotional temperature. Are they agitated, distracted, calm?
You're just getting a quick read.
Just a read. And second, and maybe more importantly, it offers a moment for cognitive alignment before you dive into the main topic.
So, while the meaning is explicit, asking about feelings, the functional usage context, which is at the start of conversation, is actually about setting the conversational pace. It's like an intellectual speed bump that prevents an abrupt transition into a demand or a complex piece of information.
Exactly. And the easy idea insight that labels it the most common greeting after hello speaks to its universality as a lubricant. If you skip it, you're perceived as rushing the other person. You're placing your needs, the reason for the conversation, above the necessary social preamble. The conversational flow is immediately disrupted. And if you watch high-level negotiators or sales professionals, they meticulously manage this opening. They need that small buffer zone to establish rapport, even if that rapport is purely performative.
It's fascinating that a phrase designed to be personal is most often used professionally to create distance, while at the same time feigning intimacy.
Right.
By using it, you confirm you recognize the other person as a human being who might have feelings, even if you're about to completely ignore those feelings in favor of getting to the meeting agenda.
Precisely. It manages expectations. The expected answer is, I'm fine or I'm good, which confirms stability and readiness for the conversation. If the answer is genuinely negative, terrible, actually,
throws everything off.
it forces a major social redirection, which is exactly why people are so reluctant to deviate from the script.
Okay, so if that's the carefully managed entrance, let's jump to the exit strategy. The way we seal the deal and frame the interaction for memory. And that's phrase number 10. Have a nice day.
This is the perfect emotional closure. Its core function is defined as a friendly goodbye wish. And unlike the status query of the opening, this is an active projection of positive intent onto the other person's future. It's a gift.
A gift of goodwill.
That's it.
And its usage context shows just how widely we rely on this emotional anchor. The sources list 3 specific scenarios that cover almost all of our public interactions. After buying something, after ending a conversation, and when leaving a place.
Let's break that down because that breadth is important. The transactional use after buying something is often retail boilerplate.
You hear it a million times.
But it's essential. It retroactively validates the purchase by suggesting the interaction was pleasant, regardless of how fast or slow the service actually was. Then, in the social context, after ending a conversation, it provides relational closure. It signals that no further comment is necessary, and all is well between you.
And that third use, when leaving a place, that's about maintaining a positive social presence within a whole environment, like an office or a community space. Even if you didn't talk directly to everyone, that simple wish, maybe offered to a doorman or a colleague as you walk out, it confirms your positive status within that collective.
And this brings us to the crucial psychological insight, the easy idea. It makes the conversation warm and positive. This is where we need to bring in the peak-end rule.
Okay. A cognitive bias we've discussed before in our deep dives on decision-making.
Exactly. We don't remember the duration of an event, but we remember the intensity of the peak emotional moment and, critically, the way it ended.
So by ending the exchange with a sincere or even just a professionally deployed "have a nice day," you're essentially manipulating the other person's memory of the entire interaction.
That's the tactical use, 100%. If the conversation was neutral, the positive end note elevates the memory to positive. If the conversation was difficult, say a customer complaint or a tough meeting, that positive closing phrase acts as emotional mitigation. It dampens the negative memory peak.
I see. So it sort of smooths over any rough spots in retrospect.
It does. Research suggests that a positive closing dramatically increases the likelihood of voluntary future interaction. It strengthens the enduring quality of the social bond, even if it's only a temporary transactional bond.
So the 2 bookends, they operate on different but symbiotic levels. How are you? Manages the immediate entry, the present moment. And have a nice day manages the long-term emotional memory, the future perception.
You've got it. Mastering these simple openings and closings is just foundational to professional competence.
Okay, moving inward from the bookends, we now arrive at the language of social maintenance. This is the essential toolkit for acknowledging help, repairing damage, and respectfully managing shared space. These are the stabilizers of daily interaction.
And there is no stabilizer more vital, I think, than the language of appreciation. Phrase number 2, thank you.
The sources define the core function very clearly. You show you are happy or grateful. But we need to delve deeper than simply being happy. What is the sociological effect of codified gratitude?
Okay, think of thank you as the immediate verbal repayment of a social debt.
A social debt.
Yes. Whenever someone helps you, whether by giving you something, providing information, or just exerting effort on your behalf, a microdebt is created. The usage context is defined as when someone helps you or gives you something. This debt must be repaid instantly.
Why is that immediate repayment so critical? Why can't we just, acknowledge the favor tacitly? Just a nod or something?
Because the failure to acknowledge creates resentment. The effort, the time, the resource that person expended is a cost to them. And if you fail to say thank you, you signal entitlement.
Right. You suggest that their effort was due to you rather than being a gift or a service.
Precisely. And the easy idea from the source is use this every day. People like polite words. I think it's too gentle.
Real soft, yeah.
It should read, use this every day or risk immediate social alienation.
Okay, that reframing definitely captures the transactional power. The phrase is a high-value social currency. When you express gratitude sincerely, you confirm that the other person's action had meaning and was recognized.
And that recognition is intrinsically motivating.
How so?
Well, gratitude strengthens the communal bond and, crucially, it incentivizes future cooperation. Studies confirm that people who receive specific and sincere thanks are dramatically more likely to offer help again. You're signaling that you're a worthy and appreciative recipient of effort.
Which makes future interactions, whether professional or personal, smoother.
Infinitely smoother. The absence of thank you turns what should have been a beneficial exchange into a potential source of long-term relational damage.
That sets a very high standard for social debt management. But what happens when we don't just fail to repay a debt, but we actively cause harm? That brings us to phrase number 4. I'm sorry.
Ah, yes, the language of repair. The social white flag. Its meaning is incredibly direct. You say this when you make a mistake. This is the immediate mechanism for containing social and emotional damage.
And the breadth of mistakes this simple phrase covers is really remarkable. The sources list errors spanning time, physical space, and relational harm. When you are late, when you hurt someone, and when you bump into someone.
Notice how the phrase operates across entirely different dimensions of fault. Being late is a failure of a temporal contract. You're wasting someone else's most valuable resource, their time.
Right.
Hurting someone, physically or emotionally, is a severe breach. Bumping into someone is just that minor, low-level friction of modern urban life. Yet, all of them require the exact same verbal restorative ritual.
The sources claim the easy idea is that it fixes small problems. But I have to challenge that analysis. A sincere apology doesn't fix the physical problem. It doesn't rewind the clock on you being late or heal the bruise from the bump. What is it actually fixing?
It's fixing the relational problem and the perceived injustice. When a social breach occurs, the immediate cognitive response of the offended party is irritation, anger, and a perception that the aggressor acted with malice or at least carelessness. By saying, I'm sorry, you instantly perform 2 critical sociological functions. First, you validate the other person's negative experience.
I see that I caused you harm.
Precisely. And second, you accept responsibility. It was my mistake.
And by accepting responsibility, you preempt the need for the other person to initiate conflict or seek some kind of redress. It just lowers the defensive barriers instantly.
That's the true power. It restores equilibrium. It signals that you value the relationship, or at least the shared social space, more than your own ego. And the sociological cost of not apologizing or apologizing poorly is often far, far greater than the initial offense itself. It leads to long-term resentment and distrust.
So a sincere I'm sorry is less about correcting the past and much more about preserving the future relationship.
That's the perfect summary of its function.
So we've covered managing debt with thank you and managing damage with I'm sorry. But what about managing the constant friction of just existing alongside other people? That brings us to phrase number 3, the language of respectful intrusion. Excuse me.
Yes. The core function is defined as wanting attention in a polite way. This phrase is a negotiation tool. You are acknowledging that the attention, the time, or the physical space you're about to take belongs to someone else, and you're requesting temporary use of it.
And the 2 usage contexts in the sources reflect the 2 primary resources you're trying to capture. When you need help, which is capturing attention and time, and when you want to pass through a crowd, which is about capturing physical space.
The example, excuse me, where is the bus stop, really highlights the attention economy. You're interrupting a stranger's internal thought process. If you just jump to the demand, where is the bus stop? You are imposing yourself aggressively.
It feels rude.
It is rude. By using, excuse me, you soften that intrusion and you make your request a collaboration rather than an imposition.
And in the physical realm, moving through a crowded space, transforms an interaction that might otherwise be a jostle or a shove into a polite request for temporary bodily adjustment.
You're negotiating the right-of-way verbally instead of physically.
Right.
And the easy idea focuses entirely on this mitigation. It makes you sound respectful. It's a mechanism for establishing a positive tone before you make any demand or interruption. If you're operating in a new professional or social environment, mastering this phrase ensures that your attempts to secure resources, be it information, time, or space, start from a position of deference.
Which, ironically, often yields faster results.
It almost always does. Respect is the fastest route to compliance. By the time you actually articulate your request, the person you are interrupting is already conditioned to view you as a polite agent rather than an annoying obstacle.
That's highly efficient social navigation. Okay, for our deep dive audience who are intrinsically learners, constantly acquiring new information, these next three phrases are the indispensable tools for managing cognitive load and ensuring true comprehension.
Yes. These are the linguistic strategies for fighting ignorance.
So let's start with the input failure remedy. Phrase number 5. Can you say that again?
The meaning is simple. You didn't hear or understand. But this phrase addresses a really critical ambiguity in communication. Did you fail because the speaker mumbled, which is an auditory failure? Or did you fail because the information was too complex or too fast? A cognitive processing failure.
And the phrase itself doesn't specify, which is part of its utility.
It doesn't matter because this phrase covers both. The usage context stresses these high-pressure communication scenarios in class, in conversation, and when someone speaks fast. When information density or speed increases, the brain's ability to decode rapidly just diminishes.
And when you're dealing with a foreign language, like English for many people, that cognitive speed limit is even lower.
Much lower. This is the ultimate linguistic rewind button. When you use it, you're buying critical seconds for your brain to process the initial input while you're awaiting the clearer, maybe slower second delivery.
And the easy idea specifically addresses the English learner audience. Very useful for English learners. But its utility extends to any high-stakes information intake, doesn't it? Like taking notes in a fast-paced meeting or receiving complex technical specifications.
Absolutely. It's the lowest risk request for clarification. You are not admitting you don't grasp the concept yet. You are merely admitting you missed the specific words. It is passive clarification, which is often much easier for the ego to handle.
I think we really need to emphasize the tactical advantage here. In a professional setting, asking, "Can you say that again?" is almost always preferable to just nodding blankly and then making a mistake later. It signals engagement.
It does, not ignorance.
Right.
The cost of asking for a repeat is a few seconds, maybe a minute. The cost of misunderstanding complex instructions can be, well, monumental. Aggressively utilizing this phrase is a core competency for minimizing error and maximizing data fidelity. It forces the speaker to repeat, and often with greater clarity or different phrasing, which is a major benefit to the listener.
Okay, so if that phrase manages input failure, phrase number 6, "I don't understand," deals with a higher level problem, processing failure.
Correct. The meaning here is a cognitive impasse. You cannot understand the word or sentence. This is not an auditory issue. This is a conceptual or structural failure. The words were heard, but the meaning just didn't register.
And this failure occurs pretty predictably during learning and when facing operational complexity, like when instructions are difficult. This is the moment when genuine learning stops because the foundation is cracked.
It has. Pushing forward from this point only compounds the confusion.
Which brings us to what I think is the most important psychological insight of this entire section. The easy idea states, don't be shy. This is a normal phrase. We have to address the profound psychological barrier people face when admitting, "I don't understand." Why the shame?
The shame stems from the fear of being perceived as incompetent or unintelligent, particularly in a knowledge economy, right? Many people would rather sit in silent confusion than ask the one question that exposes a gap in their knowledge to their peers or, worse, their supervisors.
And that silent confusion is just lethal to learning.
It's lethal. Confusion is not a sign of low intelligence. It is a sign that the brain has encountered novel information that challenges its existing mental models. It is the moment right before growth.
So the act of using "I don't understand" is an act of intellectual vulnerability.
It is, but it's the necessary friction required to advance. The skilled learner understands that admitting confusion isn't slowing down the process. It's accelerating personal mastery by ensuring no faulty assumptions are built into their knowledge base.
So we should teach people that "I don't understand" is functionally equivalent to saying, "I have identified the precise point of friction, now let's apply resources here."
Exactly. It redirects mental energy from performance anxiety to problem solving. This phrase is the essential step for moving past the barrier of false expertise and truly actively engaging with the material.
That distinction is key. Now, phrase number 7 takes that general admission of confusion and makes it highly specific. It turns the focus into a laser beam of inquiry. What does this mean?
This is the vocabulary builder. Its core meaning is explicitly seeking the definition of a single targeted lexical unit. It isolates the variable of confusion.
The usage context applies whenever new information is being processed. When reading, when listening, and during dedicated vocabulary efforts when learning new words,
And think about the efficiency of it. If I don't understand, requires the speaker to re-explain a whole concept.
which can take time and effort.
Right. But what does this mean? Only requires the definition of a single term. It's highly efficient and much less burdensome on the speaker, which makes them more likely to respond positively.
And the easy idea reinforces this efficiency. Use it to grow your vocabulary. When you encounter an unfamiliar term, pausing to ask for its meaning turns that moment of cognitive friction into an opportunity for retention. You are immediately linking the new term to its semantic context.
And that active inquiry results in far stronger memory encoding than simply skimming over the word and hoping to figure it out later.
So to summarize the toolkit, can you say that again? Corrects input problems.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand, addresses the bigger conceptual confusion.
Right.
And what does this mean? Is the proactive engine for expanding lexical knowledge. The mastery of these three phrases really defines a proactive learner who just refuses to accept ambiguity. We transition now to the most immediate utilitarian uses of language, the phrases for securing aid and basic comfort. These are really the language of necessity and survival.
And we begin with the most fundamental appeal for mutual aid there is, phrase number 8. Can you help me?
The core function is simplicity itself. You need assistance. It's the direct, non-negotiable expression of temporary vulnerability and immediate need, but phrased politely.
And the usage context reflects the whole spectrum of human needs, from the cerebral to the purely physical. You need assistance when you are confused, when you are lost, and, as the source states tangibly, when carrying something heavy.
The provided example, "Can you help me with this bag?" grounds this in reality. It's a literal request for a physical burden transfer, but it works just as well when you are intellectually lost trying to navigate a complex system or a foreign city. It's an appeal for temporary expertise.
And the easy idea here is critical for acceptance. Simple and polite. The simplicity conveys urgency, but the politeness inherent in the phrasing, "Can you help me?" rather than a demanding statement, is the social lubricant.
How so?
Well, it offers the other person the option to decline without shame, which counterintuitively often makes them more willing to assist. You are not demanding compliance, you're requesting partnership in solving your temporary problem.
But isn't there a power dynamic at play here? I mean, when you ask for help, you temporarily place yourself in a position of dependence. How does the politeness offset that inherent vulnerability?
It manages the inherent power differential. By saying, "Can you help me?" you are showing respect for the other person's time and resources. You're acknowledging their competence and their agency.
I see.
In return, the person helping gains social capital and validation. It's a beneficial exchange of vulnerability for validation, and it's all facilitated by that polite framing. This simple phrase is the most efficient way to delegate a temporary burden and activate the social contract of mutual aid.
It's a deep analysis of just 4 simple words. Now, we move to phrase number 9, arguably the most important utilitarian phrase for mobility, travel comfort, and, well, basic human dignity.
Yeah.
Where is the bathroom?
Its core function is the immediate localization of a restroom. We don't really need to elaborate on the necessity. We need to focus on its tactical importance.
The usage context is universally defined. Anywhere outside your home. This rule just emphasizes its non-negotiable status in public, commercial, or unfamiliar settings.
And the easy idea stresses its travel utility, a very important travel phrase. When you're navigating unfamiliar environments, physiological needs often supersede linguistic complexity. This phrase has to be mastered because its failure leads to immediate and profound discomfort.
In the lexicon of travel survival, this phrase ranks as high as help and water.
It really does. And if we elevate the analysis, instead of just defining the physical location, let's discuss the sociolinguistic phenomenon here. Why is this phrase so often awkward or softened by euphemism across different cultures? And how does this simple, direct phrasing cut through all that social awkwardness?
That's a great question.
Because the need touches upon the private and the bodily, it requires overcoming social barriers of modesty. But in moments of urgent necessity, the phrase's universal biological importance allows it to just pierce through that social awkwardness. Its power lies in its directness and its non-negotiable urgency. Furthermore, the sources show us the highest level of efficiency by combining it with phrase 3.
Right, that integrated usage. Excuse me, where is the bathroom? It is the perfect synthesis of respect and urgency. You start by using to manage the necessary social interruption, acknowledging the person's space and attention.
And then you immediately transition to the critical high urgency request. You've efficiently used two simple phrases to navigate a social obstacle, the interruption and secure a biological necessity, the location.
That combination is high-level communication mastery in any language.
It is. Mastering the tactile deployment of these two simple phrases can save you a tremendous amount of stress in an unfamiliar environment.
The simplicity of these phrases really belies the sophistication of their application. Their social code, hashtag to hashtag outro. We started this deep dive looking at 10 simple phrases, and what we found is that they are, in fact, the essential architecture of social competence. We analyzed the bookends that frame every interaction, the initiation and status query of "how are you?" and the crucial memory-shaping positive closure of "have a nice day."
We detailed the phrases necessary for social maintenance, managing debt with immediate gratitude, thank you, restoring equilibrium and trust after an error with and navigating shared space with respectful intrusion,
These three phrases are the stabilizers that keep daily life polite and functioning.
And critically, for the constant learner, we armed you with the essential toolkit for clarity, the input correction mechanism of, can you say that again? The intellectual honesty of admitting conceptual confusion with "I don't understand," and the targeted engine for vocabulary growth. What does this mean? Finally, we covered the practical necessities. The combination of simplicity and politeness in requesting aid, can you help me? And the ultimate travel survival phrase for comfort and dignity, where is the bathroom? The power of these simple words lies not just in their explicit definition, but entirely in the specific contexts, the when to use, that transform them from basic manners into powerful tools for managing relationships and accelerating knowledge.
What's truly remarkable is realizing that the gap between a socially awkward, confused interaction and a smooth, successful one often hinges on the tactical deployment of just 2 or 3 words. We know what these phrases mean, but our analysis shows that mastering when to deploy them is the true key to communication mastery and social navigation.
And this raises an important question for you, the listener, to carry forward. We spent a good amount of time discussing how "I'm sorry" functions to fix a problem and restore equilibrium. But look closer. Is its most lasting and valuable impact truly about immediate repair, or is it the subtle but continuous strengthening of interpersonal trust? By showing the vulnerability required for a sincere apology, you invest social capital. What crucial social mechanics are you unintentionally overlooking or even damaging simply by neglecting the precise timing and sincere deployment of these basic, powerful linguistic tools in your daily life? Pay attention to the subtle architecture of your own language this week.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.